Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Thank you, Kirk, for hosting this wonderful event. I hope we provide some value to you guys this morning. And welcome to Miami. Give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, well, let's start by getting to know each other a little bit. My name is Jason Saltzman. I've created several businesses. Most of them have failed, fortunately and unfortunately. I've learned a ton during my process of being an entrepreneur. I built a co-working space in New York City, and I had access to a ton of entrepreneurs that were building things, and we really created a community of people that were supporting each other. I started my entrepreneurial journey before that in the debt relief space, and I hated it. I hated how people were treated. So after Ally sort of dissipated and took a life on its own, I started a company called Relief. We just raised a successful Series A financing, and we are eliminating credit card debt for free through an app that's launching next year. And through my journey, I've been able to meet so many amazing people. I met Kirk on a program in Israel called Reality, where they brought a bunch of entrepreneurs and creative thinkers together in Israel to learn the ecosystem there, and it was amazing. And we started a very authentic relationship. He told me what he was doing, and I was just very happy to meet the community that he's supporting. And he asked me to do this, and I'm super happy to be here with all you guys. And that's me, a little bit about my story. And I'd love to just go around really quick and get to know you guys a little bit, your stories, and we'll start a really awesome conversation.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Maria. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in Miami, left a few times, and Miami kept bringing me back. Kind of spent the first half of my career working in startups, and then 7 years ago took over a tech community here called Refresh Miami, which kind of has served as kind of a hub for the ecosystem here. Riley, one of our writers, is here. And so it's a nonprofit really with a mission to educate, inspire, connect, and grow the tech and startup ecosystem. And then kind of very passionate about community building, so launched in kind of 6 years ago a Women in Tech community here that's a kind of a monthly happy hour and a Telegram channel, Slack channel, just to support and empower women here. And then kind of 3.5 years ago joined the dark side to join VC, and now I'm at a VC called Florida Funders, investing in early stage startups, so seeded Series A, mainly in the B2B SaaS space. So yeah, I'm very passionate about kind of growing the community here and supporting this tech and startup ecosystem in South Florida.
And you guys announced my Series A on Refresh Miami, so thank you for that. Awesome. Thanks, awesome. So happy to be here.
Chessie, you look a little different today.
Hi everyone, my name is Jadon. I wear a couple of hats around town, just like Maria. I'm the executive director and founder of Miami Happy. We're like the largest community of software engineers out here in Miami. Next Miami Happy is January 29th through February 4th. I'm also one of the partners for Tech Beach Miami and have been working very closely with the team to get them acclimated with the local ecosystem. Jamaican, born and raised. I remember being at Tech Beach day one. That's actually how I got plugged into a global tech community. And started off in Miami actually as a writer for Refresh Miami before kind of jumping off and doing my own thing in the tech ecosystem. And finally, I wear the hat of being the head of business development and partnership at a company called Upstream. We're in the DAO tooling space. If you came to the happy hour yesterday, that was put on by our incredible team and partners from CIC. And yeah, that's me.
So Upstream's Alex Cobb?
Alex Cobb.
So he started very early at my co-working space. Yeah, in New York, yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, everyone. George Corton. I currently serve as the managing principal for Westside Capital Group. It's a commercial real estate investment firm outside of Miami in Coral Gables. It's right 10 minutes from the airport, hub of Miami. But I just got there 4 months ago, so my 20 years in the profession before this was in higher ed, education philanthropy. Most recently serving as the Chief Development Officer at Florida International University. So really from that vantage point, we were really able to see Miami boom in a way few other cities have boomed, and it was because we all worked together. So in my current hat, I oversee business development for a $1.2 billion real estate investment firm in the Southeast, and really looking at it from what's happening in South Florida and that growth that all that's uncovered with what happened in higher education.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here. This is definitely going to be an interesting conversation, and I want everybody to have a chance to speak. Did my microphone go off again? You guys hear me? I'm sorry. It was a late night last night. Who else partied a little bit? We're getting it together. So, Miami is just going nuts right now. I mean, I think so many different consequences have brought this ecosystem together. And I would really love you, because you have so much experience in the community here, I'd love to know your opinion on how you think, what paved the way for this tech boom, and a little bit about maybe some data points you guys might have on just expanding about what that tech boom is, like what's it like right now being here from a startup perspective, from a technology perspective, and what do you think set the path? What was put in place to allow that to happen? Whoever wants to go.
Yeah, I mean, so I think I was fortunate enough to witness Miami a little bit before our current boom, and had an opportunity to see the incredible work that communities like Refresh Miami, CIC, and some of the other institutional programs that we're here trying to foster some level of community or commitment to a tech ecosystem. And then I think everything changed 2 years ago when COVID hit, and unlike most other places in the world, Miami was still very much alive and well. And I think it's almost like this weird thing where the stars aligned. The mayor had tweeted, what if we take SF and move it to Miami, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, yeah, we should go to Miami and explore this, possibly becoming a tech ecosystem. And obviously we have great taxes here. Or lack of
Taxes are big.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, what I've observed over the past few years is we just had a magnet of venture capital and later stage founders moving into the ecosystem. So institutional funds like Founders Fund, Tiger Capital, they all moved and started having partners here, and that became the nexus for founders wanting to move into the ecosystem to have proximity to some of these investors. And then two of our guests today, Edward and John Oringer from Shutterstock and Pareto, they were also a big part of that early movement in bringing talent here. And I think fast forward, I continually say that Miami skipped a couple steps in terms of what it typically takes to build a tech ecosystem. But there's no doubt that today we're deploying way more capital in a quarter than we have in successive years. There's way more talent in the ecosystem and the community. And I mean, Florida Funders has been doing an incredible job backing companies that are being built here in the ecosystem. And nobody will laugh at you anymore if you're hey, I'm trying to build a company in Miami.
Is that what was happening? Do you think before this, people would laugh at you if you were where are you building a company? You're Miami. People would be what are you doing in Miami? Why aren't you in the Valley or something?
Yeah, I definitely, so at Refresh, together with the Downtown Development Authority here, we surveyed the ecosystem back in 2015 and then again in I think 2019, and asked founders, what are you experiencing? How hard is fundraising? 2015, they were we're getting laughed out of the room. No one will take us seriously if we're based in Miami. Then in 2019, they're we're not necessarily laughed out of the room. We can more easily raise from outside capital, but there's not enough local capital here. And so they were still feeling this. There are so many founders here that have wanted to build here for years, and some of them have put their foot in the ground. They're we're going to stay, and some of them are we want to stay, but we can't. So they either left or they opened up a tiny satellite office, called themselves San Francisco company, just so that they wouldn't be
phone number or something.
Yes, they would send one guy out there, and they're you stay out there and make it seem so that we can not have this trouble. And so I think what Janan was saying is we were slowly building the blocks here for a while. There was a lot of people who wanted to live here but felt like they couldn't for one reason or another. And so COVID was this perfect storm of events where these VCs that had hey, we're working remote, we want to be somewhere that's open. They came to Miami and they're for the first time, I think they came to Miami and didn't just experience South Beach. And so they were oh, there are other neighborhoods to Miami. And they also worked and lived here. So they're like, before it was just like, I'm just gonna go for a weekend and party. And then they're like, oh, okay, working here is possible. And it's actually a great time, a great quality of life. There's so much more to Miami than I ever thought there was. And so they gave permission to the founders to be like, now you'll be taken seriously if you're here. And actually, you should come here. So there's a lot of people with a lot of egos kind of betting on Miami. And so I'm betting on their ego that they're gonna, that they're making it so that it's, and I think it's going to be great for all cities that, VCs are now changing their tune, that they don't, some of them, that you don't have to be based in San Francisco to be taken seriously. But yeah, I think the perfect storm of events of COVID really accelerated the growth here.
I want to add to that because I think that did, and it absolutely accelerated it, and it was the catalyst. But Miami's foundation was strong because our geography was always our destiny. And it was, if you rewind to the 1980s, when it was the most turbulent time in Miami, with what was happening with the Mariel, with Arthur McDuffie, the riots, we had a strong mayor in Mayor Ferre who looked south. He looked to the Caribbean. He looked to Latin America, and he planted a flag and said, this is going to be the capital for Latin America. And that was the foundation. If that didn't exist, we wouldn't have been able to leverage everything that happened with Mayor Suarez, and the tweet that was heard around the world is, how could I help? And in addition to that, so I really want to, because when you go to Brickell, everyone comes here and goes to South Beach. When you go to Brickell, that's one of the largest concentrations of banks in the world is there in Brickell. That was Mayor Ferre who said to the world, come here, bank here, and make Miami your second home and make it the gateway to the United States. And to the United States, he said, make that the gateway to Latin America. So the foundation was really strong. So when everything happened over COVID, and we leveraged that opportunity, we that worked in this ecosystem were like, is this real? Is this gonna stay? And what I want to tip my hat to the mayor and his office, because he gathered people that never gathered before and said, how do we make this sustainable? And I worked at the university as the vice president of development at the time, overseeing fundraising, and I had the opportunity to be at that table, said, how do we make these tech companies say there's gonna be enough pipeline to support this growth? So we brought in the universities, we brought in the Knight Foundation, we brought in companies, we brought in organizations to say, what can we do? And as a result, philanthropy flowed that way. Philanthropy was never flowing into tech. I mean, FIU, for example, received a $10 million gift as a result of that to create the Knight School of Computing. That's all a result of gathering people and working together to say, we're here for Miami, and this isn't gonna be a moment, it's gonna be a movement.
Yeah, and it's just really crazy to think. I mean, it's like we could think of ourselves in the now and say, oh my God, look at what's happening here, but there was nothing here, and I think that's super inspirational if you're part of a community that hasn't really grown yet. Like, to look at Miami as an inspiration. I mean, I lived here 10 years ago, to your point, and I moved back to New York City. Basically, it was extremely hard to raise capital. It was extremely hard to meet anybody that was into startups. When somebody said they were working on a startup in Miami, you thought it was like fraud, like instantly, right? And like, to watch the ecosystem grow, to have some of the most top venture capitalists on the planet come here and develop offices, long-term leases, it's extremely mind-blowing, and it's super inspirational. Because I know where this community comes from. I know the Tech Beach community in the Caribbean, you're probably in an ecosystem that needs a ton of support, and you're looking for community to bring things together. I would definitely listen to what these people are saying right now, because everybody on this panel has been involved with the growth, with the giving, with the putting themselves first, putting other people first, putting the companies first, putting the entrepreneurs first, and watching the byproduct of something that was nothing into what it is today, which is Miami, right? So, in that regard, hello, by the way, did we miss you?
I'm really, really sorry. I'm from Costa Kobe.
Did we go over time?
No.
She was in traffic, so Jadon joined
There
us.
was I'm gonna do the shuffle, the stage shuffle. It's so nice to see all of you. There was a really bad accident on the A1A.
Oh, no.
And so I am so sorry for being late. It was, I should have, it's unpredictable, but there's always an accident. So I should have predicted that there was an accident. I am delighted to be here. Just a quick introduction, and sorry to take your
please.
flow. My name is Francesca de Quesada Covey. I am originally from Miami, but similar to you, I moved away and I went to DC and I went to London and I went to San Francisco, all working with a company that was called Facebook at the time. It is now called Meta, but I left before that new name, so I still call it Facebook. And I came back to Miami during the pandemic where I started doing two things. One, I'm a partner at a venture capital firm here in Miami that invests in early stage companies. And two, I serve as the tech and innovation advisor for Mayor Levine Cava, who is the county mayor. And so she's responsible for the airport and the seaport and the roads and the coordination between 34 municipalities that make Miami the great place that it is.
Thank you so much, and I'm so happy you're here. I'm sorry you got into traffic. I was almost worried. I'm like, do we have to leave? So I'm like, I'm having a lot of fun right now, like
But,
getting to know everybody.
yeah.
Thank you.
I
though.
didn't know like how to. And
You did it. You did
Okay,
it.
good.
Well, let me ask you this: like, based on what? Now you're back in Miami.
now I'm back in Miami.
So what is it like witnessing this tech boom, like firsthand, from somebody who lived here, left, and then came back?
So I left Miami twice, which, I probably shouldn't say as loudly as I'm saying now. So I left Miami when I was younger to go away to school for university. And for high school as well. And then I came back to Miami while I was working for Facebook. I had my first baby here. I was covering Latin America. I led developer partnerships for Latin America for Facebook. And I was doing that out of the London office. And my boss was like, why don't you move to Miami? And to be honest, even though I'm from Miami and my whole family's here, I was like, because there's nothing to do there, right? And so my boss was like, okay, Chelsea, but you know what? You're about to have a baby, so actually move back to Miami. And it was really, really good advice that a boss probably shouldn't give you, but it was a good thing that I was in London. In the US, they probably wouldn't let you say that to your employee. And so I came back to Miami and I was working for Miami for a year. And the conversation that I had with my boss at the time, after being here for a year, he said, you can have a great career in Miami for as long as you want, but just so you know, your trajectory is going to be much, much slower than if you move to San Francisco. And if you move to San Francisco, you're going to be put on this project and you're going to have this team and all of these things. And so I left. I went to San Francisco. I hated San Francisco. I do say that very loudly. And so during the pandemic, I wanted to come back and see family. And we came back, and Miami was a very different city. It was a very different city because so many people had moved here, but it was a very different city because people like Maria have been planting seeds for the tech ecosystem for 12 years. And those seeds had turned into flowers and they were blossoming. I might kill this metaphor. And so it wasn't that it happened overnight. It wasn't that it happened during the pandemic, but all of her hard work, the work that people that have been here in the ecosystem for all that time came to fruition, and the timing was impeccable. And so for me, being able to stay, not only did I have the opportunity to stay at Facebook, and I could have stayed there, but I had so many more opportunities where I could really think about what else was out there.
Amazing. You are single-handedly responsible for the tech boom in Miami, so thank you so much.
Yes.
It's amazing.
I mean, how many of you read Refresh?
Yeah.
Refresh?
Yeah.
Okay, if not, Refresh Miami is Maria. Maria is Refresh Miami. And Riley, and you all should read it because it's an amazing newsletter, but that newsletter has been around for how long?
It's since 2006.
Right, so it's not, people think that it's just like the last 3 years, but that's not true.
Like Miami.
Like Miami.
Yeah. So we talk about a lot of the optimistic things that happened, and we talked about from your perspective what you've seen and how you felt during the growth spurt. But what still needs to be done in your opinion? Like what is some of the work that needs to continue to see the community continuing to flourish? And again, anybody can step in.
I'm going to chime in because we're experiencing this firsthand. I serve on the board of hospitality for the chaplain school at FIU. Miami is going through a crisis in hospitality. I mean, we plopped on all this tech stuff. We may forget who we really are in terms of our economic drivers, and it is hospitality is number one, and construction in the state. We are bleeding in terms of the pipeline for hospitality talent. I mean, some of our largest hotels are down 40% in staff. Wow. So, and they have no idea how they're going to get there, and they're going to replenish that staff. So when you think about about, it's great that we have these amazing jobs. It's amazing that, that rent is 24.6% year over year to date, higher than it was last year for the economy. But we've displaced people, and how are they gonna live and work in this place of Miami when it's so expensive? And hospitality has been our biggest driver. You're here, you're on the beach. You'll feel it if you stay in a hotel for an extended period of time, that hotel doesn't have that staffing. Restaurants don't have that staffing. So I believe if we don't figure out that situation, that's the underbelly of our economy. So what can we do? I don't know.
Anybody else want to chime in?
So I mean, same vein, but talent in general. Yeah, I think it's going to be, and that's not a knock to local talent here. I think that every city is experiencing struggle with like talent, but Miami having so many companies relocate here, I think it's just like increased the amount of strain on the ecosystem. So I think it's going to take a two-pronged approach where we both attract new talent and then we upskill the current talent and make sure that we're creating those pipelines so that, long term, that we have a thriving talent ecosystem here.
Yeah, that totally makes. Well, for my last question, because I think we have a little bit more time, right?
Can I add something there?
Yeah.
Just from the county perspective, one of the things that we're thinking about is economic development. And so the mayor, her big focus this year is thinking about economic development. And you're so right? Like we are all talking about the tech economy, and we are leaving behind. We have, let me say that a little bit differently. We have the potential to leave behind the industries that have really been the foundation of who we are. The way the mayor thinks about it is that there's going to be a convergence. All industries are going to be moving towards more tech-based industries. And so how do we make sure that we support pipeline, the way that Maria was saying, but how do we make sure that we do that across the board? And so there are apprenticeship programs and pipeline programs that are funded through the government that you should all be taking advantage of. Career Path is one, where they will pay for people to have internships at your organizations. The organization will. So it's a way to make sure, in addition to all the great work that we're doing with FIU, that Miami-Dade County is doing, but it's not just looking at it as sort of one silo and saying like tech is where the jobs are, but how do we make sure that tech factor is really embedded so that we can upskill and reskill people into these existing foundations of our economy?
Yeah, it seems like a big challenge, but from what I've seen happen so quickly around here, I know that we have so many great people. I have to shout out Mayor Suarez because I've just seen him so early on talk about this tech ecosystem before it was here, and then really nurture and cater it as it evolved. And I think he's just doing a wonderful job, to that aspect as well. So I'm optimistic. On that note, where do you, and I'd love to hear from everybody with this question because it's kind of like forward thinking. We talked about how we got here, we talked about what it was like from your perspectives, but where do you see Miami, and this could be optimistic, this could be your personal experience, where do you see Miami 10 years from now? And again, anybody could start, but I'd love to hear from everybody.
I'd like to see it leading the way in kind of learning from some of the highs and lows of other ecosystems and kind of leading the way in housing affordability, in climate tech. I'd like to see it keeping its international influence. I don't want it to become this homogeneous community like other places where we're not celebrating the differences and kind of uplifting everyone and making sure everyone's a part of it. So that's my vision for it.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with Maria I think 10 years from now, I'd love to see Miami be the model for truly building an inclusive tech ecosystem. I think it's very much like possible because of like the nature of this community, and if we can look at how to be inclusive across like all the facets of our like ecosystem, then we can really like unlock a power that we've never like seen in any other tech community. And because we have the advantage of being like young and fresh as a tech community, so we can like get a lot of things right that many other ecosystems have historically gotten very wrong.
I think for me, I would love to see it as a model of how cities can work together through the public and private sectors. And I was just in LA yesterday and talking to people that do what I do in the multifamily asset class, and I was talking about how unique it was to see a mayor of a county work with the mayor of the city, work with the presidents of the universities, work with the business leaders, work with the nonprofits, work with the organizations to cultivate what's happening here. And everyone that I was speaking to from other cities are like, that doesn't happen in LA, that doesn't happen in San Francisco. So if we can't lose that, I think we need to further nurture that and really be the international model of how, if we're all striving for something to make Miami this great place, but make Miami, also the definition of what it means to have affordable housing, attainable housing, and being able to live, work, play here. I think we can be an international model in 10 years.
I mean, I want everything that all of you have said. I think if we were to sort of up-level it, we're all talking about sustainable, inclusive growth. We want to make sure that we are here in the next 50 years and that our kids have jobs, so we want to make it sustainable. We want to make it inclusive because panels like this don't happen a lot. And we want to make sure that people are working together in the public and private sector. And we want growth because at the end of the day, we want the economy to do well and we want everyone to have opportunities. And so for me, when I think about it, it's we need to make sure that we are pulling all levers. Look, Miami is so special because we're gritty, right? This is a city full of people, and the Caribbean and Latin America, we're gritty. We know how to make tough times happen, and we know how to be creative, and we know how to enjoy the good times. And so that grit is something that is really, really unique in us, and is something that makes us really special. And I know that we're going to be able to leverage that into making sure that everyone has the opportunities that they should have, and that can only happen here.
But we can't be underwater, so we got to figure out sea level rise.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big. All these things. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm totally inspired by what you said, how you felt about and where you see everything going. Do we have?
We have a couple times if we want to take questions.
Yeah,
from the
that's what I was.
audience.
Thank you.
That we were going to do an intimate day, so we're going to continue the Q&A. Who wants to kick us off? There's got to be questions for them. Perfect.
Hi guys, great panel. So a lot of reason why a lot of the Caribbean entrepreneurs are here are to make that connection between what is American capital and what is entrepreneurs in the Caribbean looking for that American capital. And Miami is like geographically located in an awesome place. I think many of us have been to Miami. But we've talked to a lot of investors. Sorry. And those investors cannot tell, like from my side, I'm a Caribbean entrepreneur, but they want like US customers, or like we've made ourselves like a Delaware C Corp and things like that. But is it on your radar to look for companies outside of America to invest in, being in Miami, or is there, what's the adherence, if there is any, to investing in Caribbean entrepreneurs?
So I'll put on my venture capitalist hat on at the moment. It's a really tough market right now. It is. There is a lot of dry powder. There's a lot of money that is available to be deployed, but people are getting nervous. And people are getting nervous because they're seeing, because inflation is going up, economic indicators are tougher, the macro condition has worsened, and you're also seeing big companies, like I don't know if you all saw the news, Argo, for example, is the one that I saw yesterday, that are closing, right? And so there is a lot of concern about what the economy is doing and the tech space. We've also been operating under conditions where the cost of capital has essentially been 0% for the last 10 years, and that's changing right now. And so one of the things that investors will be looking at is what is the total addressable market? And the Caribbean is a market that for investors is small. It doesn't mean that there's not potential. Please don't misunderstand. But when you're looking at that 50x, that return that they are aiming for, because early stage companies are a crapshoot. The Caribbean is a place where the market seems too small. And so your job is to say this is why the total addressable market is where the opportunity is, and this is how I'm planning to get into new markets in the future. And so I wouldn't worry so much about laddering up into the US. I would worry about the following: really, really good retention, really, really strong growth, and a path to make sure that you can go to other markets outside of the Caribbean. And that's the way that I would present it. And to me as an investor, that would resonate really deeply because it would show me that you understood sort of the levers to make it into the other markets.
So, amazing answer, amazing question. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to throw one thing out there. Being from the Caribbean, one of the reasons I was particularly excited about helping Tech Beach come to Miami is because I also feel like there's a big part of the Caribbean being misunderstood. And maybe in the same context where founders from Miami felt like, if you're from the Caribbean, somebody's like, hey, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you building a company in Jamaica? But we've seen successful companies be bred out of the Caribbean. We've seen Caribbean founders move to markets like the US and build successful companies. So I think, kind of like flipping the coin on the people in the room, I think there are Caribbean entrepreneurs in here who might be building businesses that could be potentially appealing for the capital that you're deploying. And don't let that like Caribbean like banner be the barrier between you having that conversation, really evaluating and taking risks on that entrepreneur in the same way we would with talented entrepreneurs who are dealing with like maybe small markets here in the US. So I think in this room and with the dialogue that we're having, this is an opportunity to see like countries like Jamaica, like #1 in terms of like doing business in the world. We have like one of the top performing stock markets in the world, and this is like an opportunity for other people to like recognize some of the level of opportunities and activity that is happening within the region.
Yeah, and look, unpopular opinion, what about not raising money? Right? What about creating a product that is profitable and working off your profits? I mean, I think we've been so enamored by access to capital and high growth that we forgot that a lot of this country was built, and even outside the country was built on businesses that never raised a dollar, And I think uniquely when I go to the Caribbean, I see a lot of people that I see are very, very connected and engaged community of people that want to support each other. I think that it's a unique revenue opportunity for people to figure out, how to connect people and make money together, as an ecosystem, as a community. I think what we need to do also is stop looking at headlines of people that raised significant amounts of capital and seeing that as a layer of success. I think it's just debt you're taking on, Unpopular opinion, by the way.
We have time for one more question. Yeah.
Hi. I'm just opinionated person, so I'm just probably going to give my perspective on things. I'm from the Caribbean, namely Haiti. And my experience so far as capital, I'm looking at the presentation that before that one, where we're looking at the sources of funds, where we're looking at the money flows. There is more than $750 billion coming from the United States and Canada going to Latin America. So the funds are there. Those monies are basically from people that are originating from Latin America that live in the U.S. When you look at the demographics, they're all living on the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, coming down all the way down to Florida. And Florida, Miami particularly, is a big basin of people from Latin American markets, and they have the resources. I think what the problem is that the logistical, professional services, legal, accounting, setting up legal or structural bridges between Florida and the rest of LATAM is not yet there. I mean, people are not looking at that. So yes, you have all the major banks that are setting up in Brickell Avenue, but it's one flow. It's from LATAM to US. You're not seeing the reverse. So that I think the problem is that aside from the potential of tech, I think there is a second layer of infrastructure that is not yet existent. Legal, accounting, and creating those relationships and connecting those markets and having those funds be direct to not only consumption goods and commercial goods, but really like proactive funds that go towards investment in the Caribbean. And I think this is where the solution, from my perspective, is, because there's a lot of potential of growth, of building products and projects in the Caribbean, financed by the money that is already latent and here existent in Florida and the Northeast coast. So I think, from my perspective, it's looking at this as the Caribbean and Latin American being a growth market in itself, and Miami being that hub where the service providers, the expertise that understands Latin America will promote and will create that bridges to divert those funds back to Latin America and build that value that you're not seeing in the U.S. because the U.S. has its own economic challenges that has to go through, around the fact that those markets are strongly depending on the U.S. dollar. So technologies, CBDC, USDC, all those markets are latched into the American economy, but they're not seeing the growth themselves because they don't have the expertise to do it.
Yeah. Sure, I won't be long. Morning, Fortnite from Kingston, Jamaica. I just want to add to the conversation in terms of capital. So I actually don't believe, and I know it's a, I'm not going to be scoffed at, that there is a shortage of capital in the Caribbean. I think there is lots of capital in the Caribbean. And in my experience, I'm seeing that capital looking at opportunities within the region. There is I think Tech Beach and a number of other players are doing an amazing job of building the ecosystem. We're far from where we need to be, but we're making lots of progress. Just want to highlight a couple of things that, again, you may scoff at it, but earlier the gentleman who presented EduFocal, he presented WePlay. Those guys are going to be listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, giving exit to persons who want to exit. And those persons who are exiting, those founders or those shareholders, are 10x, 15x their monies, right? So, if you are investing in EduFocal, say Andrew up there, Andrew Pierman, hold up your hand, Andrew. Hold up your hand, cool, no problem. If you invest in EduFocal 10 years ago, you're up 15x, the ability to sell your shares, convert to US dollars, wire your money to Florida. So I'm saying is that the founders in the Caribbean, well-packaged deals are welcomed. For example, and I'm not self-promoting. Where's Kirk? I have to be careful.
Here we go.
No, is that there are a number of PE investors in the Caribbean, VC investors looking for deals, not finding great deals. I mean, Kirk is one. Kirk and Kevin and some other guys, Andrew and a couple other guys, looking for deals, can't find any deals. So my point is that certain check sizes perhaps can be written, but other check sizes can be written to move us forward. So I'm not saying that just package those transactions and use the Jamaica Stock Exchange as an exit in 1 year. I just want to kind of add to the conversation.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think one of the things that you asked us for our forecast in Miami. One of the things that I think was going to change about the VC world is that we're going to see the expectation of returns coming down. And that way people are going to be able to access more money that's currently sitting on the sidelines, because I think investor expectations are going to shift back towards the fundamentals. And when you shift back towards the fundamentals, then you're talking about great returns. You're still talking about 10x. You're still talking about 15x. I don't know when that became a bad thing, right? I don't know when 15x I was like, nah, I'm gonna pass because I only do 70x. Like, what? That's crazy. And so I think that you're gonna go back to more fundamentals and less vision selling, and then you're gonna find it that it's easier to raise when you have a really good product that's sticky and that's growing.
That's it.
Awesome.
We're out
Thank
of
you
time.
so much, everybody.
We're going to do a 5-minute sunshine break. So sunshine, water, check your email, bio break, and then we will meet here at 10:20 for a conversation on soft landing to Miami from the Caribbean and LATAM.
You're in college.